What a game last night between Bayern Munich and PSG. A week ago, the two teams met at Allianz Arena and it was 3-2 to the Parisians. It was a rough match for Bayern because, again, the injuries did play a part, but both teams were hobbled in a way. Bayern had to play Lucas Hernandez on the left, Sula Boateng in the middle, and it was a tough outing, especially on the counter for Bayern, because try as they might on attack, they weren't able to convert, while PSG, with their star men in Mbappe and Neymar, were running riot against Bayern. 3-2 was the result, and they meet again this week with Bayern looking to make the comeback and make that stride to retain the championship, while PSG were there to prove their mettle, that they can actually deliver in a return leg. So let's just get into the talking points of this game. Tactically, both teams set up quite similarly, as you would expect. You had almost a 4-2-3-1 on both sides that would convert to almost a 4-4-2, almost like a 4-2-4 at times for Bayern. With Bayern, they were looking to play out from the back as they do with Neuer. They were looking to get the ball to the overlapping fullbacks who were always gunning forward. Sometimes you would see Pavard tuck in and have a back three, And the holding midfielders this time were different, of course. There was no Leon Goretzka, who picked up an injury last game. You had Alaba and Kimmich, who were almost counterproductive playing together because both offered a similar style. Yet again, this team was set up, in my opinion, better than they were last game because Davies is such an important cog. In facing a team like PSG, their pace is so hard to deal with. And defensively, this team looked perhaps stronger as a whole. Nevertheless, in attack was where the questions were going to be asked. Again, there was no Lewandowski, it was Choupo-Moting up front. But it became quite apparent quite quickly that Bayern's game was going to revolve around their wingers, in Sané and Coman. You would see them cut inside earlier times, or you would see them linking up with the fullbacks, in Pavard and Davies, to create the crosses. For PSG, you would expect them to have a low block because they essentially had to defend a two-goal advantage that they had. They had Idrissa Gana Gueye and Paredes in the middle, who were basically the middlemen in defense and offense, who were getting the ball with interceptions and immediately starting the attack. And they were brilliant on the night. You would see Neymar drop between the lines because of the space that Bayern left in the middle, because of their overloading style, using Alaba, Davies, and Coman on the left to create that mismatch. Neymar was getting in the space, getting the ball, and he was the one facilitating Mbappe or Di Maria. Di Maria and Draxler were playing the roles of facilitators when Neymar and Mbappe were both playing as the two forwards. For Bayern, however, there was a feeling of familiarity regarding the proceedings. You go back 2 years ago, and Niko Kovac would have the team set up in a way where the wingers had to break down the low block. And the team was reliant on individual brilliance from the wingers and the forwards to create anything, while the team itself felt static. And last night, due to the circumstances, we saw the same thing. We saw Bayern reliant on their wingers, while Muller would press forward as almost a second forward next to Choupo-Moting and try and create chances. But that does add a level of predictability to it. PSG knew what was going to come. They knew how to defend. And once that pattern formed, PSG started to dominate in terms of not the possession or the chances, but in terms of control. Even though Bayern had the ball, you could tell PSG were totally comfortable. They were cruising. And that isn't a fault of Bayern. That is the situation that was because they didn't have two of their most dynamic players in Leon Goretzka and Lewandowski, who would drift wide, who would drift ahead. It added different elements and different scenarios with which this team could attack. And they were missing in this game. And that's what made the game such a tough offensive night. And you would see Neymar drop further behind, get the ball between the lines, and start the counterattack. That happened constantly. And that's what made it such a tough night for Bayern. For PSG, the chances came aplenty. You have Neymar and Mbappe who were going to run riot against the high pressing Bayern. But there was a weird sense of familiarity amongst their game as well. We have seen this PSG side dominate in terms of creating chances, but not finish them regularly. I mean, you go back to the game against Atalanta not too long ago, last year. Neymar had incredible chances that he could not put away until the last couple minutes where they won the game. And last night it was quite a similar situation in where Neymar got great chances to create and score, but his finishing wasn't up to par. You have high expectations from a player like Neymar because he is so incredible, because we have seen him do incredible things. And more often than not, we have seen him not able to finish in great chances. He hit the bar in the 37th minute and the post in the 39th, right before Choupo-Moting scored on the other side just a minute later. And that could have set the tone for the game, but it didn't. Next half, you saw PSG come out more refined, which was beautiful to see from them. They were not panicking. They were not playing erratic, trying to just break Bayern on the counter, which they could have. But they let Bayern get into that rut of predictability, and they waited for their turn, and they ultimately got it. Not in terms of the goal, but in terms of controlling the game, and they clearly did that. Maybe this refined style of play is a necessary addition to their game. They need that in bigger games where they have to hold on to a lead, where they have to hold on to a situation. And that's something that we haven't seen much from them, and that was a welcome addition to the Parisians. What's next for both teams? Well, for Bayern, rifts between Hansi Flick and Hasan Salihamidzic have been going on for a while. The lack of key signings to a team that really required it due to their high energy style really affected the team. And Hansi Flick was quite disappointed with the lack of backing. I mean, last night you saw an example of that with Bayern. As soon as they got the ball, you would see them overload on the left. Davies, Alaba, Coman. On the defensive end, as soon as they lost the ball, they would swarm the opponents, double team, triple team to get the ball back. And ultimately, you need better signings to bolster this team. And with the spot opening up for the German national side, Hansi Flick is going to make that move. I mean, Lothar Matthäus said yesterday, apparently, that he's going to leave. He's going to go to the German national side to coach after Joachim Löw takes a step back. So changes are coming, especially now with players like David Alaba, Jerome Boateng, and Javi Martinez on the way out. The club is going to see a lot of changes. A new backline will be formed. We saw how immense Lucas Hernandez was at centre half yesterday, thwarting so many great chances on the counter and creating, going up ahead with that extra burst of energy. Davies was good, and with the addition of Deo Upamecano, that's a step in the right direction. For PSG, on the other hand, the moment that stood out to me from last night was when the whistle blew and the outpouring of emotion from Neymar, who knew that the spotlight would be shining brighter on him had Bayern converted one of those chances because of the misses that he had. That moment meant a lot to him because this team kind of became synonymous with not being able to make it through when the pressure's on them. They did that against Barcelona, and now they've done that against Bayern. Both teams that they share a lot of history with, the La Remontada, the finals last year. PSG exacted two revenges back to back, and that's what this team needed. They need to feel that hunger. They lost out in the finals last year, and this year they're hungrier than ever. The situation is a weird amalgamation of familiar and uncharted territory for this team. They don't have a lot of experience, but yet they do. They made it to the finals last year, and they're going up against potentially either of Manchester City or Borussia Dortmund, both who on their night are clinical enough to break down any team. But that's the same thing that you can say about PSG. You have Neymar and Mbappe who on their night could break down any team. We saw it in the last leg against Bayern. But it's different this time because they seem mentally tougher. And that's what this team needs. They need to be ready when it matters. Against Bayern, they were. They have to do it again in the semifinals and then the finals. And it seems like they're ready. It seems like this is the journey from the takeover that happened years ago, from every single loss against Manchester United, against Barcelona, against Bayern. It all leads to this season where the players have to go for it. They're all hungry. And on their night, they all need to deliver. And that's what they need to lift the elusive European prize. Oh, and welcome to the convention.